And if we look at it from a personal objective, and you can flip this into business, there's like five key questions you need to ask yourself. Is this really my goal? So, from a business perspective, is this really my business's goal? Or am I trying to accomplish something in my life through my business? That might not be a good plan, right? Maybe if you take it one step further and you're in a bigger business, is this my department's goal? Is it really the goal of another department and they need to be working on this goal? And you're just kind of an ancillary, you're part of that who on to crew I mentioned earlier. And then can you see yourself or your business reaching the goal?
Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name's Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners, and you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And today I'm pleased to welcome Tracy Brinkmann. Now, I thought Tracy was a female, but it turns out that he's a he. So, welcome, Tracy, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. It's funny with a name like Tracy. I have encountered that a number of times.
I'm sure you have, and excuse my ignorance because I'd never met a man with that name before. So yeah, it's just unusual.
I was actually named after Spencer Tracy, the actor from way back
Oh,
when.
okay. Well, lucky you.
Right?
To be honest, I mean, he was just a fabulous person, so I've heard. So yeah,
So that's what I've heard too. So I'll own that 100%.
absolutely. So we're going to be talking about goal setting and overcoming adversity, which in my mind can be linked together because,
Hmm.
if you don't set the right goals, then you're in for an adverse reaction to your business. So,
Absolutely. Actually, I got into goal setting as a result of some adversity. And I was like, I think we haphazardly set our goals. Hey, I want to do this, and you start going after it. But I think the real adventure of goal setting is when you sit down and kind of I use what I call a chart process and an eye chart like iPhone and everything else. But you start with the eye of envisioning what it is it will look like at the end. What does my utopia look like? And you kind of set that premise, and I would even go one step further and to the point where you feel it, right? What does it feel like when I wake up in the morning? What does it feel like to see the home or the business I've built or the spouse I have or, the good things I'm able to do with the end result? And then you can come back and start going through, all right, now what do I need to choose to do that? What actions do I need to take? What goals do I need to set? And then uh, you can start back planning it, or almost reverse engineering, you could call it, right? Um, and then the next step after that, after kind of choosing the steps, is defining the help you're going to need. Because as we all know, the only reason we're not there yet is because we don't have the skills, the knowledge, or the assistance to get from point A to point B. So obviously, like I just mentioned, you want to set up what skills or knowledge that you need to develop, and then there's the piece, and I'm going to steal this from Benjamin Franklin, and you need to build your who on to crew, and that's JUNTO, and it's a crew of people that you'll call it your mastermind, that you'll be trading knowledge, services, information, but it's those folks that you lean on. Like, hey, I might not be the expert in law. I'm not a lawyer, but maybe there's this friend of mine or a relationship that I can build that can help educate me on those fine nuances of law, right? That you can lean on. So you build this interconnected team, called your Who on Two crew, and then you start taking action. You're like, okay, now I'm going to go after it. And I think a lot of folks will stumble, bumble, trip, fall. They take that first action, and it's like, well, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to,
Mm,
and they call it failure. I think we need to reframe that a little bit, and let's call that feedback, right?
mm,
You take an action, you get a result. The same thing if you don't take an action, guess what? You get a result then too. But if you take that result and you look at it and say, well, it's not the result I wanted, but I learned some new information. Well, now you go back and you just rinse and repeat and you keep recycling. It's like doing a Facebook ad, right? Hey, I'm going to do a Facebook ad. I get the graphic and I put the copy down there and I choose who I'm going to send it to and how much I'm going to spend on it. And you get a result. Either they clicked on it or they didn't. And if they didn't, well, it's one of a few factors. It's the graphic, it's the copy, or it's the targeting. And until you start dialing those in, you mess with it. You keep going that feedback cycle until you find, oh wow, I found a success, and then you start building upon that first success, and then that's all the review process. So we've got ICHAR, and the last one is time and tenacity. Right? It's going to take time, ladies and gentlemen. There are no overnight successes. I think every overnight success we've ever looked at has been grinding away behind the scenes before anyone knew who they were for years, sometimes decades. And then all of a sudden, bam, right? Everyone knows about them. They're an overnight success. No, I've been doing this for a long time. You just didn't know who I was.
mm. Yes, that's very true. I mean, a lot of actors and so forth, if you want to go down that road of, excuse me, have been plugging away for, a long time.
Yeah.
And, since they were children, and all of a sudden, they had bit parts, and then all of a sudden they had a great big movie role, and now they're just an overnight success, and, good on them. But
Yeah,
it just doesn't
but it
happen
was
that way.
it was all building those skills. It was all those bit parts, like you said, that built the skills that got them that opportunity for that big breakout movie or whatever it is.
Mm. Excuse me, got tickles in my throat. Um, okay, so if people aren't taking these steps as we know that they should be,
Hmm.
because there are, steps that you need to take to get to from A to B. And
Sure.
if you don't take them and you miss a step, then, what consequence is there to, the person or the business? I mean, to me, I know there could be consequences because I'm all for skipping steps. And hence, I end up with a learning um, outcome rather than an outcome that it doesn't lead me to where I want to be.
I think one of the biggest consequences is we'll come back to nothing, right? So uh, that's usually the biggest one. I think everyone's going to go, no, 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 Tracy, that's not the biggest one. The biggest one is failure.
No, there's no such thing as failure. It's a
Thank you.
learning.
Yeah,
It's
it's a,
just a
again,
learning.
it's always feedback. If you're as long as you're taking action, you're going to continue to get that a result. Whatever you may not like the result, you
No.
may not have expected the result, but you got a result. And I can go back to a client I worked with who was in the apparel industry, and they made well, I'm actually wearing one of their shirts right now,
Oh, very
but they.
sexy.
They make apparel for a very small niche market of folks that are whitetail hunters, and whitetail are deer, and it's a
Mm,
very specific kind of deer here in the Midwest in the United States. And so it's a very small niche. Now, I say small niche; it's probably 2-3 million people in all of the United States that are whitetail hunters. But their apparel was so unique and so cool that it appealed to an outdoor enthusiast, whether that could be, I could just like being outdoors and walking in the woods. I could be a hiker, whatever it is. And so when they took their niche market to Amazon, it really opened the doors to this a wider market of folks that were outdoor enthusiasts or that just liked camo. There's a whole urban section of the culture that like that camouflage piecing on their clothing.
Yeah,
And
my
so they
son's like
found,
that. He loves
yeah,
it.
so they thought it was going to be a failure. They're like, wow, we're not cracking the market. But when they opened up and took the action, they found that, wow, what we thought was a bad result was like, oh man, we just really blew the doors open, which enabled them to have the funds to make more unique pieces for the niche market. Many of those pieces were very successful over in the outdoor enthusiast market. So it was, you want to stay true to who you are, but realize there'll be outside folks that will resonate with you as a result of you staying true to who you are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do believe in authenticity in all things. I think if you stray from who you are, or how you can serve, people
Hmm.
won't like you. They won't trust you because you've strayed from that pathway. That
Yes.
they may be stalking you in the background quietly, looking at what you're doing, and then if you stray from the pathway that they know you for, they'll think, well, what the hell's going on? It's not like that,
That,
and
yeah,
then they won't like you.
yeah, they lose that congruency. And I think that is probably one of the biggest lessons I try to reinforce with anyone I engage with, is like, if you just be you, right? Two simple words, be you. And it sounds so easy. We get caught up so often in the trappings of business.
Mm.
Hey, I can make more money if I do this. Well, if doing that pulls you away from being you, then I think you're headed down a path of destruction. You may get more of those trappings, but I think in the long run, you'll end up losing more as a result, be it, you know, uh,
Well, you
personal,
lose
right?
yourself. You lose
Yeah,
yourself, I
that right.
think.
Exactly. That's where I was going to go with is you kind of lose who you are, and then that spirals out into end up losing some of your core audience because they're like, well, he was cool 2 years ago. Now he's turned into this schmuck. I don't know what he's
Yeah,
doing.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
yeah, but if you continue to be you, you resonate with a core group of folks, and they'll buy anything you produce. They'll sing your praises on high as long as you continue to be you. The minute you make that left turn, they're gonna like, what's he talking about over
Yeah,
there? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It happens so often in business because um people I mean, I know people have had to pivot in the last year or so, 18 months,
Hmm.
for we know because of the pandemic. Whether you believe in it or not, I don't really care. But the point is that whatever's happened out there, and a lot of businesses have had to pivot.
Hmm.
Now, my point being is that, yeah, some of them have had to go a little bit offline, but I think they still stayed true to who they are on a personal
Yes,
level, and
absolutely.
not pretended to be somebody they're not.
Yeah, I have a gentleman I know. His name is Zach Babcock, and he came out of doing 5 years in prison, and decided, you know what, that path is not the path he wanted to continue on, and he decided he's going to go down the entrepreneur path. Not a whole lot of work-related opportunities for a convicted felon, right? So he had
Mm,
to struggle to overcome that stigma, right? That sticks with that. Today, he's running a six-figure business, doing great things for his community and the folks that he works with. And the whole time, he's always been himself. He's always been a very masculine kind of guy. He cusses on his podcast, the whole nine yards. But the thing is, that's authentic. And the
mm.
people that resonate with that, they come to him. They seek out his advice. He's working with the Gary Vaynerchuk's and the Billie Jean Marketings of the world, all by just being himself and getting his message. Now he has a valuable message. You can't just be yourself and be a jerk.
Well,
That
some
won't
people
last.
can be, and they seem to
Well,
do all
okay,
right
that's
out of
okay.
it.
You're true. That good point. Good point. It's best not to be a jerk. How about that?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it is best not to be a jerk. Yeah, so I guess with we're sort of straight off the path a bit, but I'm really enjoying the conversation and where it's going. Um, so adversity and goal setting. We were trying to talk and how we could figure out how not setting the goals, and how adversity relate. This is before we started. So how can we sort of get them to come together? Um,
I think,
it's difficult. I know it's a
mm,
concept that people won't. I mean, I can see there are adverse effects if you don't follow a path or a goal. You don't
mhm.
follow the steps. So there's got to be adverse effects for yourself and for your business, because either you're going to die in a hole, business wise, or you're going to be so stressed you're going to get so depressed because you're losing business.
Yeah,
So
I think one of the great things that people can learn when it comes to, well, I'm going to use the phrase business planning, but let's take business planning and turn it into goal setting, because generally it's what business planning is. Like, okay, next year I want to reach X millions of dollars, and I want to have this many customers, and blah 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 blah, all the goals, right? Well, I think you got to take that down one level deeper and go, how are you going to achieve that? And then there's a series of questions, and I actually just did an episode of my podcast, and I'm pulling up my notes real fast so I don't mess this up. I just did this episode of my podcast yesterday and the day before, and I call it the milieu check, right? So you've got this goal. Hey, this is what I want to do. And well, first off, when it comes to goal setting, you need to review the goals. Where are you at? How is it going? Because if you don't review it, then you could be today, maybe you took one step to the left or to the right, right? No political jokes needed, right? But maybe you're off by 1 degree. A month from now you're off by 10 degrees. 6 months from now, you're 50 degrees off in a different direction. And because you're not doing those reviews, you don't know it. And that can have some serious adverse effects. But if you do this review, this constant review, and the reviews, I think, really can be very simple. If at the end of a week, and I know I come from a retail background, as I mentioned, in apparel, we on Monday mornings, one of the first things we always did was review how sales went from the previous week. Did they go the way we wanted them to? Yes, no, right, left, up, down, good, bad. And then we would tweak some of our marketing and some of our plans in the current week as a result of that input. So you had this feedback, and then you do a monthly review. Hey, how did things go overall for the month? How are we doing towards our plan and our trajectory? Oh, good, bad, ugly, indifferent. Any new insights that we've gotten. So these reviews can keep you going. So another good thing about the goal setting process is that it sets you up for, okay, here's where we want to go. And then you keep reviewing your trajectory towards that goal, good, bad. Now, I think one of the things many of folks will miss, and I'm going to come back to the milieu check I mentioned earlier, is maybe it's not the right time to start the goal. And this is where I think some people and businesses really end up falling on their face. They have this amazing goal, but it's not the right time for it, right?
mm,
And because it's not the right time for it, they set themselves up for failure. And if we look at it from a personal objective, and you can flip this into business, there's like 5 key questions you need to ask yourself. Is this really my goal? So, from a business perspective, is this really my business's goal? Or am I trying to accomplish something in my life through my business? That might not be a good plan, right? Or maybe if you take it one step further and you're in a bigger business, is this my department's goal? Is it really the goal of another department and they need to be working on this goal? And you're just kind of an ancillary, you're part of that who on to crew I mentioned earlier. And then can you see yourself or your business reaching the goal? And then, when you reach this goal, will everything be in balance, or is there going to be this huge offset? You're like, I can see us reaching this, but to do that, we're going to have to give up our integrity, or we're going to have to give up our quality. Oh God, let's not do that. Right. And then the last 2 questions are, is this goal in aligned with all the other things that we're trying to accomplish as a person, as a family, as a business? And then the last one, and each one of these I think are important, but I think this last one really resonates, is, will the work that you need to do for this goal be morally right and fair for everyone involved?
Mm,
And if you answer, this is like, I got this idea. I was watching like Apollo 13, right? And there's the big scene, right? When they're getting ready, the rockets get ready to take off, right? And Capcom, the flight director, he puts on his vest and he just goes around to each one of the people in their stations, watching all the indicators. He's like, flight, go, no go, medical, go, no go, right? And it's not, well, yeah, everything looks okay, but no, it's go or no go. It's
okay.
yes or no. So if you go through each one of those 5 questions, and even one of them is a no go, then you might want to reconsider tabling the goal for another time. I'm not saying you need to burn it and never do it. I'm just saying, hey, it right now, because you're saying, hey, this thing is not morally right and fair for everyone involved. Maybe today is not the day you need to start that goal.
Mm,
Let's relook at it next month, next quarter, next year. And I think that really it becomes a huge lesson for many folks and many businesses out there is they take on that goal that maybe either wasn't theirs, it wasn't the right time, it wasn't fair for everyone involved, or any one of those other questions. It wasn't aligned with some other goals and ends up, you fail at 2 goals as a result of that. Does that make
yep.
sense?
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. You've explained it really well. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So tell me a little bit about your podcast, Tracy.
I'm the host of the Dark Horse Entrepreneur podcast. And for me, a dark horse is someone that they know inside that they can succeed and they can reach their goals and they can run a good business. But everyone around them is like, "Are you sure you want to try that? You might fail, right?" And sometimes they're saying it because they love them. They don't want them to go through the pain of failure. But I think at some time or another, we've all felt like a dark horse, so that kind of resonated with me. But really, we get on just like you, and we bring on some folks that are way ahead of me in their smarts or their business adventure, and we glean some of their insights, and then I share in some shorter solo episodes some of my little gems of wisdom and try to build on what I've learned, and we try to have a good time in the process.
Absolutely wonderful. That's great. And have you written anything, or do you have a website or any big?
I do. It's darkhorseschooling.com.
Mhm.
And then up there, you can connect with me via all the socials. They'll be across the top of the web page there. You can catch up on all the episodes of the podcast and, catch our newsletter. I have a freebie called the 6 C's of Entrepreneurship, a little kind of walkthrough of some really key baselines of what we tend to forget about entrepreneurship. That's just as a quick reminder, hanging up on your wall so that you can always remember you got to be clear, you got to communicate, and all the other C's.
Wonderful. All right. Well, I'll make sure that I put those in the notes, and
Appreciate
people
that.
can go there, and that will be great. All right. Any last words of wisdom, Tracy?
Just be you and enjoy the ride. And I think if you can be you and overcome the fear, when I say overcome the fear, I think the best way to overcome your fears of adversity or goal setting or business or anything is every day just to lean a little bit, just a little bit outside your comfort zone, and then come back in, feel good, and then lean a little bit more the next day. You'll find that you'll be able to lean further and further as time goes along.
Yeah, this is what this podcast was for me when I started it last year. It was like totally right out of my comfort zone. But
Nice.
yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So I'm glad I started it. So,
Absolutely.
all right, Tracy, thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, and hopefully we can talk again later in the year.
I'm sure we can. Thanks so much for your time,
Thank
Rose.
you.